Tonight in 9 News, bush breakthrough. Police unearth human remains in the search for Russell and Carol. Tributes to a respected Melbourne nurse who died of COVID in ICU. The key crossbencher tells why he relented on the Premier's pandemic bill. A police officer assaulted as schoolies run riot in Victoria's holiday hotspots. Tributes to a trailblazing Australian actor described as a once-in-a-generation artist. And get on board the fastest way to zip across the Yarra River.
This is Melbourne's 9 News with Alicia Loxley.
Good evening. We begin with a stunning development in Victoria's biggest missing person case. Detectives have found human remains in remote bushland, believed to be those of campers Russell Hill and Carol Clay. Reid Butler is there tonight. Reid, it didn't take long.
It's only day 2 of the search, Alicia, and it is all happening right now. I want to show you some aerial vision. We've just got into the newsroom, a bird's eye view of where these remains were found, about 5 kilometres north of where I am tonight in Wongongarra. You can see police have set up tents to cover the spot to protect that area from the elements. We also know the Victoria Police helicopter has touched down in a clearing nearby. It is almost certainly the moment so many have been waiting for, and this is how the search unfolded today. Detectives have never given up searching for Russell Hill and Carol Clay. And late this afternoon in thick high country bushland, a discovery that could help solve one of the state's biggest cases. Human remains, bones believed to be those of the missing campers. They were found near the Providence Spur track north of Dargo, about 2 hours southeast of the pair's campsite near Dry River track in the Wonongatta Valley. The missing persons squad honed in on the new spot just last week after interrogating the man accused of their murder, 55-year-old Jetstar captain Greg Lynn. With a specific area in their crosshairs, detectives and forensic teams spent the day sifting through soil. This historic goldfield, a suspected burial ground. Police used radar scanning technology designed to detect remains. A large excavator hired from a local in nearby Dargo was also brought in to assist.
It's definitely, rough, mountainous this sort of stuff, steep.
Detectives believe Lynn dumped the campers here after killing them in March last year. He was arrested last Monday near Lacola. Specialist police in helicopters swooping on the alleged double murderer at a remote campsite. The subsequent search for remains in unforgiving terrain could have spanned weeks. Instead, this breakthrough came on day 2.
I feel pretty privileged. Just really happy to help and really glad that I'm actually able to be a part of something like this and, like I said before, just get a bit of closure for the families.
That closure now so close for Russell and Carol's families. The remains haven't been formally identified yet. DNA testing will be carried out in the coming days, although I understand, Alicia, detectives are very confident they've finally found the campers.
All right, Reid Butler there, thank you. Well, tributes tonight for a frontline nurse who died with COVID. Medical reporter Emily Rice joins me now with the details. Em, where did she work?
Alicia, Gillian Dempsey was an emergency nurse at the Angliss Hospital in Upper Fern Tree Gully. And sadly, Gillian, or Jill as she was known to her family and friends, passed away with COVID Sunday afternoon in the Box Hill ICU. She'd worked at the Angliss in that emergency role since 2007, so 13 years. She was a much-loved member of the staff there and also a much-loved wife and mother. She leaves behind 3 children. Now, her death, unfortunately, is a reminder that COVID still remains a risk, particularly to our vulnerable frontline workers. As we relish the return of simple freedoms, the Chief Health Officer has warned Victorians not to get too relaxed. Professor Brett Sutton posting his concerns around Omicron on Twitter, saying to reduce the risk of the variant, we should right now wear a mask in public indoor spaces and live an outdoors life where you can for coffee or chat or whatever. The Premier has been measured in his Omicron response.
This is much more infectious but presents mildly. Let's hope that's borne out in the days and the weeks to come.
There are now 5 confirmed cases of the new variant in Sydney and 1 in the Northern Territory. In response, the Commonwealth has delayed plans to reopen Australia's borders to the world until December the 15th.
We're doing this out of an abundance of caution.
And that is triggering travel jitters. 19-year-old Taylor was booked to fly to Fiji on Friday with her best friend, but they have cancelled the trip just in case the current 72-hour quarantine period on return is suddenly extended.
So we were a bit worried that while we were there, it could either turn into 14 days or maybe we might be stuck there and not actually be let back.
Goldman Travel Group is busy fielding calls from clients fretting over impending holidays.
What Australians have gone through the last 20 months, we just want clarity of government messaging.
The University of Melbourne is also trying to quell the concerns of international students. There are 19,000 studying offshore who are due to start flying into Melbourne later this month to study on campus.
They're confused, they're wondering, they're uncertain about what all of this means.
This new closure, it really affects us mentally and emotionally again.
The 2022 university year officially gets underway in 3 months' time. Hopefully by then we'll have a much clearer idea of the impact this variant has on all of our lives. Victoria has recorded 918 new COVID infections and 6 deaths. 305 people are in hospital, 41 in ICU. 90.8% of Victorians are fully vaccinated.
Understandably, we have to be cautious, but let's get on with our lives.
Emily Rice, 9 News.
The Premier's pandemic laws will pass with 6 new amendments. Taxi driver turned MP Rod Barton broke the deadlock at the 11th hour, declaring it's the right thing to do. State political reporter Mark Santomartino.
As those occupying the steps repeated their calls to arrest the Premier, arrest Dan Andrews, and the man who walked among them declared it a rat's act.
I can't tell you the degree of anger that I feel at the moment.
Rod Barton was receiving death threats.
I did what had to be done, which was right.
The Transport Matters Party politician sided with the government in the early hours of this morning, settling on 6 more amendments to the pandemic bill.
I think we resolved everything. Like we have flogged this and we have curbed the powers of this government.
The Premier will still declare a pandemic, but now every rule will be scrutinised by a panel of MPs led by an independent, who can recommend health orders be scrapped by a majority vote of all 128 members.
They have a minority of 3 in the upper house and a majority of 20 in the lower house. Who's going to win that vote?
This is what 5 of us have done. We've effected change. The rest of them, frankly, have done nothing.
Much better transparency, accountability and oversight.
That now includes dumping the concept of an aggravated health order breach, which carried penalties of up to 2 years jail.
What is the reluctance on the part of ensuring that the courts oversee the operation of this law?
Paul Hayes QC says detainees deserve a magistrate's ruling. Instead, they can complain to the Ombudsman and have their case heard by an appeals panel, with the entire system to be reviewed after 2 years.
Near enough is good enough, just isn't good enough.
We can't go to a zero rules environment with no head of power, with no framework.
The state of emergency expires on December 15, and yet this afternoon the opposition did its best to delay the inevitable.
Material that they've provided to... It is about the bill.
Well, clearly a deal has been done behind closed doors.
There's no deals. My relationship with the government and myself is frosty at the best of times.
Barton returning the favour, accusing the opposition leader of shirking his calls for advice.
He was very busy apparently, but we wanted to speak to him about the bill. They've got their own agenda to run.
Mark, how long is this likely to take?
Well, the government wants this done tonight, Alicia. As we speak, debate continues in the upper house. We just heard from the controversial Adam Somyurek and expect submissions like his to drag out for hours, if not days to come. The government can bring everyone back on Friday if, for whatever reason, they can't get this passed in this final week of Parliament. But the fact is, they now have the numbers, and it's no longer a matter of if these pandemic laws pass, but when.
OK, Mark Santomartino there. A teenager is facing several charges following a schoolies party on the Mornington Peninsula. Maggie Rayworth is at Rosebud. Maggie, a 15-year-old was arrested.
Arrested and charged, Alicia. Police have accused a 15-year-old boy of coward punching an acting sergeant. I'm here at Rosebud Pier, and this is where locals say a large schoolies party took place last night. Now, when police responded to reports of a 300 people strong crowd having a party on the beach here, they were able to break it up. They did stick around to ensure that it didn't kick off again, and that's when police say the 15-year-old allegedly assaulted the officer. Now, today, that 15-year-old has now been charged with a series of serious offences, including assaulting an emergency worker. He will front the Children's Court, but police have today described this alleged attack as entirely unprovoked.
Seen a few fights, people all over the place.
It's schoolies. It's kind of expected.
Why aren't you surprised?
Because pretty much every year at schoolies something happens.
Now, meantime, at Phillip Island at Cowes, more schoolies celebrations have kicked off there. CCTV shows what's believed to be schoolies dancing around a restaurant there, even getting up on tabletops to dance as well. All this, Alicia, as schoolies celebrations kick off across the state.
OK, Maggie, thank you. Well, a landmark report on the culture in federal parliament has found half of its employees experience some form of bullying or harassment. 1/3 say they've been sexually harassed, as all political parties pledged to make the workplace safer. Here's Chris Ullman.
One woman's horrifying ordeal shook the foundations of power.
The Prime Minister acknowledged that the system had let me down.
Brittany Higgins' explosive allegations of rape inside a Liberal minister's office sparked a review of Parliament led by the Sex Discrimination Commissioner.
If there's one workplace that should represent the community, it absolutely is our Parliament.
And her 452-page report details why it doesn't.
Power imbalances, gender inequality, lack of accountability and really lack of diversity.
Of the 1,700 people who responded, over half of those working in Parliament House have experienced at least one incident of bullying, sexual harassment or actual or attempted sexual assault. 33% had experienced sexual harassment, and it found men were more likely to perpetrate sexual harassment while women were more likely to bully. A staggering 63% of female parliamentarians say they've been sexually harassed.
It's really clear that our female parliamentarians have a much tougher time.
The report records many disturbing testimonies.
Many people shared distressing experiences of bullying, sexual harassment and sexual assault.
One woman said, the MP sitting beside me leaned over. Also thinking he wanted to tell me something, I leaned in. He grabbed me and stuck his tongue down my throat. The others all laughed. It was revolting and humiliating. But fear keeps many silent.
Only 11% of people who'd experienced sexual harassment in a parliamentary workplace reported their experience.
Brittany Higgins' story badly damaged the Prime Minister and his government, but this report is a message to everyone who shares this building as their workplace: politicians, bureaucrats and journalists.
Does the Prime Minister agree that everyone working in this building, including staff, deserve a safer and more respectful place at work?
In answering that question on behalf of all of us, which is yes, Mr Speaker, of course we do.
Chris Ullman, 9 News.
Collingwood's Jordan De Goey has returned from the United States as he prepares to learn his fate over a nightclub brawl in New York. Live now to Ed Woolley in the newsroom. Ed, and what happens now?
Well, Alicia, Jordan De Goey jetted into Sydney this morning on a flight from Los Angeles. He'll isolate for the next 72 hours in Sydney before returning to Victoria. He's due back in a New York court on December 8, facing a number of assault charges. It's now expected he'll appear via Zoom. It's not his first indiscretion, of course, as a Collingwood player. This was his skipper, Scott Pendlebury, on whether De Goey has a Collingwood future.
Even when this incident happened, everyone just went off on tangents about if this happened, if that happened. I'm a lot more sort of black and white than that. Just wait to December 8, see where it lands, and then we can make educated calls on that. But I'd love for Geordie to play his whole career at Collingwood.
As it stands, De Goey remains stood down by the Pies, so he won't be back at the club even when he returns to Victoria until at least December 8. Alicia.
All right, much more to come. Ed Woolley, thank you so much. Well, Tiger Woods has revealed how close he came to losing a leg following his car crash last February. In his first major interview since the smash, Tiger vowed to return to golf, but only on a part-time basis. More from Tony Jones.
It's been almost 9 months to the day that Tiger Woods careered off a Californian road. It was later determined the crash was caused by excessive speed. But only now has Tiger revealed the extent of his injuries.
There was a point in time when he was, I wouldn't say 50-50, but it was damn near there, but I was going to walk out of that hospital with one leg.
In a 37-minute sit-down with the Golf Channel, there was the occasional interruption.
I've had some, there's low.
But Tiger is accustomed to interruptions throughout his career, which has realised 15 majors and 5 back operations. But this, in terms of a comeback, was the great unknown.
I spent 3 weeks in a hospital, and after that, I spent basically a total of 3 months in a hospital bed. Even though I was in my house, I was still in a hospital bed for, I guess, total time of 3 months.
This social media clip last week gave rise to hopes that Tiger is very much back on track to resume his career. But even he concedes it won't be the same schedule as years gone by.
I can still, maybe if my leg gets good enough, maybe kick off a tournament here or there. But as far as climbing the mountain, get all the way to the top, I don't think that's a realistic expectation of me.
Tiger also expressing gratitude at the tidal wave of support he's received from well-wishers, from ordinary Joes to the more well-known ones.
And to sit there and see my phone and it says, President's calling. You don't really see that very often.
Interview over, but no details about the crash or the need for speed. That might come in a more probing media conference this week. Tony Jones, 9 News.
And now here is Tony with a look ahead to tonight's sport.
Thanks, Alicia. And the focus very much on the Collingwood captaincy tonight. At 33, Scott Pendlebury, who we heard from a little earlier, is no certainty to lead the Pies.
We had a great chat about it, and we're both open to whatever's best for the group.
We're live with details of WA on the verge of losing the 5th test. The MCG is firming for a second match. Meanwhile, has Joe lost his chance to debut next week? The Storm star, who's walking, but only after a disaster of a podcast, and why this Bathurst champ will go for broke on the mountain this weekend. That's all coming up a little later on in Sport, Alicia.
Look forward to it, TJ. We'll see you soon. Up next in Melbourne's 9 News, a menace wanted for a carjacking, hit run and a string of thefts stretching across the city from Sunshine to Hallam. Prince Charles comes to see Barbados become a republic. And Zip It Good, the fastest way to cross the Yarra, is now open to the public. A man who held a driver at knife point to steal a car before mowing down a cyclist and his dog is wanted by police. The carjacker was spotted on CCTV following the theft 2 weeks ago. He stole petrol for the Nissan Tita and helped himself to drinks from a petrol station in Sunshine North. The damaged vehicle was found dumped in Hallam on November 15 after the thief had hit the cyclist, leaving the victim with a broken ankle. The Caribbean nation of Barbados has become a republic, further shrinking the Queen's empire. Prince Charles was there to represent the Crown as a fresh royal drama over Harry and Meghan erupts. Brett McLeod with the story.
The Prince of Wales flew to Barbados for a ceremony which would mean he would never be its king. After 400 years, the Caribbean nation has severed its formal ties with the British monarchy. Prince Charles watching a final salute to the Crown before conveying a message of good wishes from the Queen and acknowledging a dark chapter of Britain's history with the island.
From the darkest days of our past and the appalling atrocity of slavery, which forever stains our history, the people of this island forged their path with extraordinary fortitude.
Barbados will remain in the Commonwealth. The change wasn't without controversy. The decision was made by the government without a referendum. Another royal controversy was revisited just hours earlier. The Duchess of Sussex's lawyer appeared on television in the UK denying allegations against Meghan.
The overall allegation was that the Duchess of Sussex is guilty of bullying.
And is she?
No, absolutely not.
While the journalist who broke the bullying story put to bed one rumour about whether Prince William allowed it to be leaked.
Do you think the people speaking to you had his tacit approval?
Absolutely not.
In London, Brett McLeod, 9 News.
President Biden has used his first national address since the new variant Omicron appeared to urge the American people not to panic.
This variant is a cause for concern, not a cause for panic. We have the best vaccine in the world, the best medicines, the best scientists, and we're learning more every single day.
The World Health Organization is warning that the strain is a very high global risk and is likely to spread further across the globe. Well, forget flowers and jewellery. A man in India has celebrated 27 years of marriage by building his wife a replica of the Taj Mahal. His version of the 17th century wonder includes 4 bedrooms, a library and meditation space featuring intricate gold carving and a domed roof. It set him back $365,000, a bargain basement price when you consider the original would have cost more than $1 billion to complete. Well, a 130-metre zipline over the Yarra has been launched next to Federation Square. The new attraction opens to the public tomorrow as the latest ploy to bring people back into the city. Adam Hegarty went for a ride.
Here's a view you're used to, and now for something very different, because keeping the CBD going has become more than just hanging in there. The latest attraction to bring people in is to send them flying, a zip line across the Yarra, launched by a Lord Mayor with foot traffic in mind, though not exactly. Nerves of steel.
Is that all it is? What do you mean?
But with city promotion on the line, she did toe the line.
And I know that I'm about to do something completely unique and different, and that's exciting.
And so, with a peculiar soundtrack, Sally Cap couldn't keep a lid on it. 130 metres, 14 metres above the water and up to 40 kilometres an hour. A temporary December fixture, but organisers are aiming higher.
Whether it's permanent or whether we could come back year on year would be great. I think it's a really fun summer activity.
Many, it seems, agree. Almost 7,000 tickets have been sold, and with only a handful left, naturally, we gave it a go.
2, 1, go! Whoa! Now, this ride will cost you $49 and it'll last no more than 20 seconds. So what's that? $2 a second, a little bit more? You better soak it up.
Woo! People can feel safe being scared on the zipline in Melbourne.
Adam Hegarty, 9 News.
Nice day for it. And Lavinia is here now with a touch of the weather, and the last day of spring was flying high, Lavinia.
Oh, it was, Alicia, but it left it until the very end. Today showed promise from sunrise, and the city finally recorded a maximum starting with a 3, peaking at 31.6 this afternoon. And it would have been unusual not to have a day above 30 degrees in spring. Last year there were 6, all in November. The year before we had 3 in October, 3 in November, and one of those hit 40.9. So spring does love to keep us on our toes. Not to be outdone, summer will be starting on a high. It's not expected to drop below 18 degrees overnight, and tomorrow will be very humid and there'll be storms across the state, less likely here in Melbourne. I'll have the forecast for the first week of summer later in the bulletin, Alicia.
Looking forward to that, Lavinia. We'll see you soon. In the news ahead, Ambulance Victoria has apologised for a culture of bullying and sexism. Next, a paramedic tells how he and his colleagues are at breaking point. Our special tribute to a true legend of Australian cinema. And relief after 3 days trapped in a pub with an Oasis tribute band. Ambulance Victoria's CEO has been forced to apologise to staff after a bombshell report exposed a toxic culture of bullying, discrimination and sexual harassment. As Eliza Rugg reports, perpetrators within the ranks have been warned that unlawful behaviour is being passed on to police.
The damning findings of the Human Rights Report sparked an apology from the boss of Ambulance Victoria.
I've heard you, I believe you, and things will change.
Out of more than 2,000 employees who responded to a survey, 52% reported being bullied, 47% have been subjected to discrimination, 34% experienced victimisation, 17% have been sexually harassed on the job.
Horrible and destructive behaviours in our organisation.
This is not past experience, this is happening right now.
Paramedic John has experienced the toxic culture.
People are at breaking point.
Ambulance Victoria is no longer providing support for him to juggle work with caring for his seriously ill son.
If we treated our patients the way sometimes we would be treated, we wouldn't have a job.
Among the other submissions, speaking to some of the other women, they've all experienced it, someone saying how tight their pants are. In that meeting, he acknowledged the fact he didn't like I was gay.
I think over time it's developed a culture that this is just how it is around here.
Recently, 4 workers were terminated for bullying. Others will be referred to IBAC and Victoria Police.
If there are criminal behaviours and unacceptable behaviours within Ambulance Victoria, then you will be held to account.
Ambulance Victoria has already accepted all 24 recommendations by the Commission, including a restorative justice scheme involving financial compensation for affected workers. But employees like John aren't looking for money.
We care about people and we want to help people, and I guess that's all we want from our employer in return, is to be supported.
Eliza Rugg, 9 News.
Disgraced socialite Ghislaine Maxwell has fronted a New York court for the first day of her sex trafficking trial. The 59-year-old is accused of helping the late Jeffrey Epstein prey on underage girls, allegations she denies. US correspondent Michael Genovese.
Once a social high flyer, now a scapegoat, according to her lawyers, Ghislaine Maxwell embraced her legal team on day 1 of her 6-week trial. She's charged with trafficking minors to have sex with her former lover, Jeffrey Epstein. Prosecutors say Maxwell was part of a pyramid scheme of abuse in which young victims were paid to recruit their friends to give Epstein massages. They were sexually abusing teenage girls. Sometimes she was even in the room for the massages herself, and sometimes she touched the girls' bodies. The 59-year-old is facing decades in jail. Outside, her sister met by a media scrum.
Do you think your sister is a scapegoat for Jeffrey Epstein? We have no comment.
Ghislaine Maxwell is trying to distance herself from her former boss. Epstein committed suicide awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. Her lawyer, Bobby Sternheim, says she is not Jeffrey Epstein. She is not like Jeffrey Epstein, telling the court, ever since Eve was accused of tempting Adam with the apple, women have been blamed for the bad behaviour of men.
Prosecutors say they have an arsenal of evidence, including a massage table from inside one of Epstein's homes. There are flight logs, complete with names, and even a schoolgirl outfit.
4 accusers are expected to testify. It's unclear whether Ghislaine Maxwell will take the stand in a final bid for freedom. In New York, Michael Genovese, 9 News.
A Friday night out turned into a long weekend away when a group of drinkers became snowed in at a remote English pub. 61 people spent 3 nights at Tan Hill Inn, trapped when a storm swept through during a performance by an Oasis cover band. To pass the time, they sang together, did a pub quiz, watched movies and ran up, as you'd expect, a very large bar tab. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander viewers should know our next story contains images of an Indigenous man whose death we feel should be acknowledged. His family wants him remembered as David Dalatingu, known to most of us as dancer and actor David Gulpilil. Sadly, he's lost his cancer battle aged 68. Mark Burrows compiled this tribute.
The mystery, endurance and ordeals of Indigenous Australians were wrapped up in his life and his arts.
This film is about me because I'm an actor, I'm a dancer, I'm a singer and also a painter.
This is him dancing at a small diplomatic and cultural gathering in the United States. Then the world saw his role of innocent beauty in the film Walkabout, made 50 years ago today, alongside young English actor Jenny Agata. It revealed to many the parallel universe existing within Australia, far distant from our supposedly carefree Western culture.
I'm a tribal man and I live there, full blood. I born there. My family lived there, which our forefathers been lived many years.
And you never felt he was acting. You always felt that he was wholeheartedly there, and he brought you with him into that world.
David's dancing and singing were his mystique. His acting was pure skill in films like Storm Boy.
You got good brain, Stone Boy. You learned something.
There was Crocodile Dundee.
Oh, no, you can't take my photograph.
You believe it'll take your spirit away?
No, you got a lens cap on.
In Rabbit Proof Fence, minimal dialogue, his face alone did the talking.
For tens of millions of people around the world, David was their first contact with that heritage. And for Australians, he allowed us to be proud of that long heritage.
The Tracker, starring alongside Gary Sweet, was a trip into Australia's sometimes harsh history. When 60 Minutes spent time with David, the story revealed his struggles with alcohol and the burden of national recognition.
David, I think many Australians, they see you on the movies,
Yes.
would consider you an icon.
Really?
A treasure, a national treasure.
A treasure?
A treasure.
Me, a treasure? Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you. You're only one that told me. No one ever told me about me.
From boy to man to national treasure. A long, sometimes difficult road, but his own work of art. Mark Burrows, 9 News.
An amazing life. Well, Westpac is facing huge fines and compensation payouts after charging fees to 11,000 dead clients. Australians with health insurance warned they could be wasting thousands of dollars. And Melbourne's tastiest attraction opens its doors for Christmas. Two teenagers have been charged with murder over the fatal shooting of young musician Chris Habiakare. An 18-year-old from Broadmeadows, along with a 19-year-old from Ascot Vale, will this evening face the Melbourne Magistrates Court. The 24-year-old was executed when a group of men visited his Sunshine North home in late August. Westpac has been hit with a series of legal cases from the corporate regulator, including for charging fees to deceased customers. That news dominated a positive day on the share market. Business reporter Chris Kohler.
6 separate court cases have been lodged at once against Westpac, which could mean as much as $113 million in fines. But that's just a fraction of last year's profit, so investors weren't that worried today. The shares losing less than 2%. Overall, it was a stronger day on the market, with the ASX 200 lifting 0.2%. Travel stocks were among the best. The market seemingly confident today the Omicron variant won't derail holiday plans. And KFC restaurant operator Collins Foods was the best performer on the market, while gold miners struggled today. And the Australian dollar has recorded its worst month since the pandemic began. It's now buying 71 US cents, 62 euro cents and 53 British pence.
Australians with health insurance extras are being advised to buy glasses, book a dental checkup or a trip to the physio before it's too late. Bupa, Medibank, HCF, HBF and NIB all reset their benefits on January 1. COVID lockdowns have prevented many policyholders from using up theirs, which cost on average $810 per person. Melbourne's much-loved Christmas gingerbread village is again set to open its doors to visitors. The delicious attraction is this year celebrating a decade of enchanting crowds and raising money for charity. Alan Raskell was given an exclusive sneak peek.
Welcome to the Gingerbread Village.
Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the Gingerbread Man.
It's good, festive fun. Now, in its 10th year, it has all the city's landmarks licked, like Flinders Street Station, Federation Square, Albert Park, Luna Park, and a whole lot more.
You could literally spend hours in here noticing something unique, entertaining and fantastic.
Like Santa's Little Helpers, 13 chefs from the Epicure team have worked non-stop for 7 weeks to create the village, which features 600 kilograms of gingerbread, 460 kilos of royal icing and 200 kilograms of marzipan.
They built 960 figurines. We've got everything here from butchers, bakers, candlestick makers. We've got penguins, we've got giraffes, we've got sumo wrestlers, we've got football players. There's everything here you could ever possibly want.
Made in the kitchens of the MCG, it was all delicately packed before being moved into position at the Emporium Melbourne shopping centre. Opening tomorrow, a gold coin donation will get you through the door. proceeds going to the Royal Children's Hospital. So what are you waiting for? Get on down to the Gingerbread Village. Make sure you look carefully. You never know what you might find. That is me. Alan Rascal, 9 News.
Very impressive. All right, now returning with sport, here is Tony Jones.
I might go on a diet, I think. Anyway, thanks, Alicia. WA is set to throw the summer test schedule into disarray. Alicia Mewling.
Well, Tony, it might be disarray for WA, but it does put the mighty MCG in the box seat for a bonus test. I'll have those details next.
Thanks, Alicia. Also coming up in sport tonight, the Pie skipper opens up on whether he still wants the job. And a Storm star leaves the club very red-faced. Collingwood skipper Scott Pendlebury is prepared to step away from the captaincy if it's in the best interests of the club. But the 33-year-old says he's still loving the role and is in no rush to make a call. He spoke with Ed and Woolley.
It's fair to say Scott Pendlebury's basketball background has become a footy cliche. Even the man himself has heard it enough.
There's a few guys that have played basketball in the AFL at a higher level than I did, so I need those guys to start taking that shine, because I cop a fair bit of crap about it now, but yeah, I do love the sport, I love watching.
But while he's certainly content to pass on that baton, when it comes to Collingwood's captaincy, it's less clear-cut after a conversation with new coach Craig McRae.
We're both open to whatever's best for the group, you know, I love doing the role, but if we feel like it's time for Taylor Adams or Jeremy Howe, Darcy Moore, Steele Sidebottom, you know, we'll go that way.
Still, Pendlebury isn't expecting a definitive call anytime soon.
There's no rush. It's time for me to, you know, keep doing the role for an extra year because we need guys to develop or whatever that is. I feel like we need a bit of time to just feel where that's going to land.
The 33-year-old has returned in ripping shape and hungry after signing a 2-year extension. This, his reflection on some initial confusion when he went public about his future.
Pretty happy he got wrapped up the next day, which is what our club wanted, I wanted, so yeah, sort of a storm in a teacup.
Pendlebury was today at Hoop City, the home of Melbourne United, ahead of their NBL opener against the Kings in Sydney on Sunday. Local Jack White back from an Achilles injury, hoping for an instant impact from Matthew Dellavedova.
Oh, especially offensively, you know, we're going to rely on him to be aggressive from the start of games and kind of set the tone for us and how we're going to play.
Ayrton Woolley, 9 News.
The prospect of the MCG hosting a second test this summer is growing by the day as the West Australian government digs in over quarantine. Alicia Mewling joins us live now. Alicia, you look at the schedule and there's not a lot of wriggle room for Cricket Australia, is there?
Well, Tony, unfortunately for Cricket Australia, wriggle room really isn't in Mark McGowan's vocabulary. The WA Premier today reinforcing his hardline stance of quarantine, effectively ruling out Perth as hosting the 5th test in January. But in turn, it means that the MCG is in the box seat to host that 5th test, perhaps as a bonus day-night fixture.
We've said to them, you need to have 14 days quarantine. And that has to apply to all the broadcast staff, the cricket staff. They can't just bring wives and girlfriends with them. Same rules as we put in place for the AFL.
But for now, both sides remained firmly focused on the first test at the Gabba next Wednesday, if only the weather improved.
On the eve of summer, the Sunshine State making the tourists feel at home.
It's pretty bleak, to be honest. Could be November in England as opposed to November in Brisbane.
A soggy Steve Smith and co leaving quarantine on the Gold Coast, reuniting with Test teammates in Brisbane. Their World Cup heroics now a distant memory as Australia sharpens its focus against an English side hungry for an upset.
Well, I know exactly what it's like to be on the wrong side of these series out here, and it's the dream, isn't it, as an England player to play in Australia and win.
But Joe Root's men face an uphill battle as hopes of getting some much-needed time in the middle for a host of stars are dampened by the forecast of more heavy rain. Both sides have been forced to weather storms of their own in the lead-up to December 8. For English cricket, it's racism.
It's not an easy subject. It's very uncomfortable. It's horrible to hear some of the stories around cricket.
George Bailey has a busy few days ahead as the number 5 spot remains up for grabs.
They're letting this one bubble away, which I think there must be some indecision, maybe not unanimous decision-making of the selectors and opinions.
But Australia's new gloveman could already be set in stone. A dejected Josh Inglis returning to Perth this afternoon With speculation growing, Alex Carey will make his Test debut. Alicia Muling, 9 News.
Melbourne Storm will cut ties with Brandon Smith at the end of next season following the superstars. Well, you can only describe it as a train wreck performance on a podcast. Smith not only claimed he wanted to win a premiership with the Sydney Roosters, and then there was this about life at the Storm.
We have so many ups, and it's no secret. Build relationships at the Storm, bro. Drinking's a massive part of the culture.
Storm has rejected Smith's claims, saying his comments have deeply offended current and former players, while the NRL is also investigating Smith's expletive-riddled comments in that podcast.
We need to be professional about the way we conduct ourselves, all of us, inside the game, and so it is disappointing that we're talking about it.
Smith says his comments have been taken out of context. The supercars have assembled at Mount Panorama, and already Shane van Gisbergen has collected some silverware. He and Garth Tander were awarded their championship plaque for last year's win, and Gisbergen says he goes into this weekend's Bathurst 1000 with nothing to lose, given he's already wrapped up the series.
Well, yeah, if the championship was still up for grabs, we probably would have had to been quite calculated with what we did, but now we can just go all out for the race.
The supercars will hit the track on Thursday. And global recognition for Australia's soccer star Sam Kerr, polling third in the prestigious Ballon d'Or after an outstanding season with English side Chelsea. Though it was an all too familiar story in the men's division.
Lionel Messi. Lionel Messi.
This was Lionel Messi's 7th award. It was Barcelona's Alexia Putellas who took out the women's trophy. And I'll see you tomorrow night.
See you then, Tony. Thank you so much for that. Lavinia returns now, the first day of summer tomorrow, and the countdown to Christmas is on Lavinia.
Oh, that's right, Alicia. You can crack the first chocolate in your advent calendar, but be quick to eat it. Tomorrow will be very warm and particularly humid. I'll have the full forecast for you next. Hello again, and what a way to finish spring. The city finally recorded a 30-degree day, reaching 31.6. So a rare opportunity this season to hit the beach, and these lucky people made a beeline for Rosebud, enjoying our warmest day since the 19th of February. And Rosebud warmed up to 32 this afternoon. Werribee and Avalon did even better, reaching 33. Mildura and Hopeton, well, they climbed to 35 degrees with maximums in the 30s across western and northern parts of the state. Gippsland stayed cooler again with maximums in the low to mid-20s, and north of the border, unstable air-caused thunderstorms through New South Wales, with storms expected to become severe this evening. Parts of Queensland are also likely to receive more flooding rain overnight. Tomorrow, the showers and storms are expected to contract to the east coast, but with the humid air pushing down over Victoria, we are likely to have a stormy start to summer. Storms will be hit or miss, though, delivering falls of 20 to 30 millimetres to some areas, while others stay dry. Extensive parts of northern Australia will begin summer with heat wave conditions. Marble Bar is expected to reach 44 to 46 degrees from tomorrow until at least Sunday. Storms are expected across Victoria again on Thursday, and they're likely to be more severe, with large hail possible along with damaging winds. But here's how things are looking for the first day of summer. It'll be a very mild start. Mildura is not expected to drop below 20 degrees, with widespread minimums in the mid to high teens. Isolated storms and showers will develop in the east during the morning before extending across the rest of the state during the afternoon and evening. Winds will be light north to northeasterlies, with coastal sea breezes picking up in the afternoon, particularly along the Gippsland coast. It'll be warm and humid, with most locations heading for the low to mid-30s. It'll be a very mild night here in Melbourne, even at elevated areas, with Mount Dandenong only expected to dip to 18. Then most suburbs will climb to 31 before things become a little unstable in the afternoon, and that could lead to a few showers and rumbles of thunder. The city will kick off summer with a minimum of 18 before warming up to 31. Then another warm night, a low of 18 again, and staying humid with a top of 29 on Thursday. Once again, showers and storms are likely. The cool change will leave us with a maximum of 20 on Friday, 19 on Saturday, up to 23 on Sunday, so that'll be the nicer day of the weekend. 28 on Monday, Tuesday 24 with showers and storms expected to return. So hello summer. Its first day will deliver an overnight minimum of 18 and a partly cloudy but humid top of 31, and we could get a storm later in the day. And with the first day of summer, a reminder to slip slip, slop, slap, Alicia.
Always good advice. All right, Lavinia, thank you so much for that. And that is 9 News this Tuesday. Layla is up next with a current affair. I hope you have a great evening. For now, good night.